You're listening to Thursday Mornings with Alex and Dawn.
TMAD.
Dawn is a pastor with 40 years experience.
And Alex is just as curious as you are. We look at the most important
and interesting questions about the Bible and Christian faith.
So let's talk about it.
Pastor Dawn.
Good morning, Alex.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah.
Good. We got a good topic today.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Do you know what makes me nervous?
When I say that?
When you come in with your computer and you've got all this stuff over here, here I am, just little old Don with my Bible.
You know, that's just to make you nervous. Nothing. I'm not even going to use anything on there.
Oh, okay. So, that's good to know.
If you can't see, sometimes I've got the computer open to be able to research things on the fly. Or to make sure, or it's like too much to sit in my head or be written down. Then I'll flip through some tabs. And sometimes.
Okay. And so
like
Don gets the other side of that one.
Yeah, so like the angels
God
and demons
bless you,
episodes.
Alex.
Yeah, so.
But that keeps the comedy going here.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us again today. And if you haven't ever done it yet, like, subscribe, do those kinds of things wherever you are. I'm not going to make a habit of saying that very often, but if you're new to this or you're sharing it with a friend or something like that, those things could possibly help us in the future to spread this ministry. So
that's the important part, getting the word out.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We appreciate you. So here's the question. Why does Jesus tell the disciples to bring nothing early in Luke? And then tell them to acquire things later? This question arose from a argument made about what Jesus tells them to bring later, about one of the items. I bet you know.
Oh, I bet you're talking about that sword.
Peter's right.
Yeah, okay.
But the most important question, I think, what's relevant to this conversation is just like, why tell them to bring nothing and then tell them to bring it? You know?
Right, but when we're in Luke 11, I believe it's Luke 11, and he tells them to not take an extra cloak, just their cover and their pouch.
He says it multiple times.
Yeah.
So as early as Luke 9, verse 3.
He sends them out twice in Luke, in Luke's gospel.
Yeah.
And minimal. What he's wanting them to do in those two missionary sendings is to go out without anything to sort of test, are the communities that they're going to be receptive?
I see.
And if they're going to be receptive, are they going to take care of him? If they're going to take care of him, then that's a good place for them to be.
I see.
Because they'll be receptive of what they have to share. Oh. If they're not going to be receptive, then what does he tell them to do? Shake the dust off and go to the next place.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting...
Yeah, it's an interesting spot.
Yeah.
So shake the dust off and go to the next place. It'd be better for that town. It would be better in Sodom and Gomorrah than it will be for that town, as if Jesus is saying, well, they didn't get it, and they're not going to.
Yeah.
And so then it moves on from there. So then the other point that you're talking about is on the night he was betrayed. And in the midst of that betrayal, he's saying, well, grab this, and a sword. What's interesting is the turn on that.
Right.
Because the turn on that is they say, oh, well, we've just got this one.
Right.
And that's enough.
Yeah. Is it one or is it two?
Is it?
I thought maybe it was two.
Maybe it's two. I was thinking my mind was going just to Peter's sword. And because Peter's the only one that cuts the ear off.
That's true.
And so that's where I got the one. So it could be two.
Two, yep, 38.
Okay. And that was enough.
Yeah,
so
that is enough. I thought that was an interesting reply.
11 guys and 2 swords are enough. Get real? I think part of that's, so the next piece happens. Peter does try to use his physical force, to fight off, and that's really not what he wanted to have happen. But the piece of that, it is part of God's will, is he healed the man's ear.
Right.
And so it underscores the what Jesus talks about in Matthew 5 to pray for those who persecute you, and to pray for your enemies, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, because he's saying, okay, this guy, a guard, was out to get me.
Right.
Peter took his ear off. Well, that was rather unfortunate. And then Jesus comes back and heals that ear.
Right.
And that becomes sort of a subtext.
Oh, yeah.
Even during the time of Peter's denial.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of those remembers, well, weren't you there when that ear was healed? Yeah, well, yeah, I took it off. Right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a subtext that we get to see if we look close enough. That being said, when we go and share the gospel, basically we just go. It's just us.
Right.
It's not a whole lot of extra. And it's so hard for us to do.
Yeah.
Because we like security, and much of our security is in things.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to maintain. I value missionaries who can do that.
Sure.
And I still like my car.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't imagine doing ministry without something like that.
Oh, yeah. So imagine how much extra money you'd have if you just went everywhere on a moped. You'd save so much money on gas, Don.
Yes, but this morning it would have been a brisk ride.
Oh, boy.
Goodness.
Yeah. This would have been 2 weeks ago for any of you listening when it dropped 60 degrees overnight.
And overnight, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not only in Iowa. It can do that other places.
Oh, yeah.
It just shows up.
Oh, yeah.
We're just more used to it, I guess.
Sure.
The beautiful weather you can have at 1 hour, and then 12, 14 hours later, it can be decidedly different.
Yes. So what about the back to the question, the acquiring the purse? But now if you have a purse, take it, and also a bag. And then he goes on to say, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one.
But he only needed two.
Right. Right. What about the purse and the bag then?
The purse in the bag is more than what he asked them to take on the two missionary journeys in chapter 9 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not preparing only to go out and share the word at that point. At this point, they're preparing for the next week or two,
right,
when things are going to be crazy for the disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, okay, get your things together. Gather your bag. If you need a sword, yeah. There's a period of time coming that will be very much different than this circle of guys and this teaching situation we've created.
Yes.
And so I think it's his way of saying, guys, got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
The next few weeks are going to be horrendous. Okay.
So those first two items then, the purse and the bag, that's you're going to need these. And then the last item was kind of to fulfill
that next piece, that prophet. It was sort of prophetic that he was going to do that healing.
Oh, yeah.
Can have it healing without having a maiming.
Right.
If
they don't have a sword, how's he going to do that?
And it wasn't, it's obvious that when only two swords accomplished Jesus' purpose, that it wasn't to defend themselves against this 600 soldiers that were coming to get Jesus.
Right.
Two swords get real.
Yeah.
It'd take an angelic presence to take care of that. And I do believe it was there.
And even it could have been much different. If there were just two Roman guards that came that knew how to fight against 10 disciples.
Who didn't?
Would there be 10 there plus Jesus? Or there'd be 11 there plus Jesus that 11, time?
Yeah.
Okay. Two of them could probably take care of it even. But I just thought it was interesting because I don't think it's about Jesus saying, hey, everyone should go now have a weapon.
No.
Get ready. Go get to where to defend yourselves. He's like, because I see it,
if only
if
two.
He could say, he can't say the prophetic thing out loud, right? He can't be like, when they're like, oh, here, we got these two swords. And he's like, well, technically he's the only one that needs it, right?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, why? Wait, why? Why just him?
Yeah.
He's the worst at defending him. He's the most he's the one that's most likely going to do the wrong thing with it.
Yeah.
As we see.
Yeah. As we see, exactly.
As we see later. Which, I closely feel, I always feel like I am like his character more and more, or, just a little, just like always just doing something and being like, crap. Jumping and doing
jumping into
quick.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
What's interesting is I wonder what he was aiming for.
Oh, sure. Exactly. Right. Straight down.
Yeah.
And how you only hit an ear and not also just land right
into him and hurt him otherwise.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It just, I just don't think that those two swords were meant for defense.
No.
It was meant that this prophecy was going to come about. And Jesus knew it. And Jesus also knew the role it would play in Peter's life later on.
Right.
And so it's yeah.
It was something he needed to be able to experience, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Did something? I thought I read something with the bag with Peter later on. I don't know. Someone had said something about how it kind of ties into the denying 3 times, but then the purse was supposed to be for the Judas selling him out.
Mm-hmm.
But he says that after Judas sells him out.
Right.
So that wouldn't really make any sense, would it?
It doesn't really tie in there. I think it was basically they were each to have their purse, their own little bit, to make sure they could get through the next several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that would, most of that time they would spend together. After Jesus' ascension, the 40 days, they'd be with Jesus. They'd be sort of on their own, but sometimes together.
Right.
And so it was a interesting time, the 40 days after Jesus was raised from the dead. But they would all, after Jesus ascends into heaven in Acts chapter 1, then they would sort of compartmentalize, and they stayed in that upper room together, and there was 110 of them, I think.
Okay.
And so there were going to need to be resources. Those people had to eat.
Yeah.
And had to be taken care of during that time. I think it was Jesus' way of saying, you need things that provide for you to get through this time.
Right.
And together you'll need some more to get through this time. It's going to be an anxious time. Get what you can to get through.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Stay together. It's going to stay here.
Stay here.
More importantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't go off and wander around and.
Which is exactly what they did.
Yeah.
After his death and after his burial, you had disciples going to Emmaus.
Yep.
And why were they going to Emmaus? Well, this Jesus thing is all done,
Exactly.
And so they were headed to Emmaus, and what happened? Jesus showed up on the road to Emmaus.
Right.
And said, dudes, what are you doing?
Hey.
So what happened,
Did you forget anything?
Yeah.
Maybe,
yeah. Did you not believe?
Right.
Kind of thing. And the guys were talking about resurrection this morning, that they saw Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus explains why all this had to happen.
Right.
And actually is revealed when he breaks the bread with those 2 disciples.
Right.
And they said, oh, were not our hearts burning within us?
Yeah.
As we walked and heard him on the road. Yeah, because it was Jesus. You just didn't get the message.
Just didn't get it. And what?
And it's all right, because Jesus showed up for him.
Right. That's kind of the thing, is we often go astray like that.
Mm-hmm.
We feel it, and we still go astray.
Yeah, yeah. And we reason things out. Well, he's dead. How could he be real? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what those disciples were doing on the road to Emmaus. That's why they needed Jesus to show up.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to be able to let the Holy Spirit lead from within, opposed to looking at the Bible and just being like, well, I'm doing this, I'm checking the lists off. All right, now I'm entitled to something. Heaven.
Yeah, okay.
Superpowers.
Superpowers, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
And not getting sick anymore, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So I think that covers that one pretty good. I mean, I've heard a lot of if you're listening or watching this, I really have a hard time saying, I don't need, or the Bible says don't have weapons, don't hurt anybody.
Right.
but things keep popping up around me where I realize there's not a lot of standing for that in the Bible. And if you've got something, send it in, please. I would love to change Don's mind on this. I just have not found any support for it. I think that's important to have.
Yeah.
And Don's looking for something.
I remember a sermon I preached, and really somebody got me on it. Let's see, on the shrewd servant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember when I preached on that?
Uh-huh.
And he says, use this earthly wealth to gain for you friends for the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even in that situation, handling our own stuff lightly.
Right.
And using it rightly to gain for the kingdom.
Yep.
It's as if everything we have as Christians is one way or another to be yielded for the greater good. So when we talk about this situation and getting those disciples through those several weeks, Jesus was very practical and right on target to help them get to the next level, because he basically had these guys following him.
Yeah.
And they were dependent on him.
Oh, yeah.
And the Savior couldn't just go and do this sacrifice on the cross thing and leave them be. He was looking out for them to get them through that period of time.
Right.
Just like he says, those of us who have plenty need to be looking at ways that we can befriend people to the kingdom.
Yeah, I agree. And I do know from some statistics for this podcast, this show that Dawn and I do, that are the age of the people who listen are usually older. So if you're one of those people, especially older men, the next generation is watching you. Okay?
That is true.
And I'm not saying this is a common problem with older men by any means, but you guys are always the one that have these resources. Make sure that the next generation is seeing you share them to bring glory.
Watching what you do with them.
Exactly. So you have land, you hunt this. Don't gobble it all up for yourself. I try more and more to let people hunt and fish and do whatever they want as long as they don't ruin it for the next person. Yeah. Free reign.
Next generation.
Yep. If you treat it like your own, free reign. We don't need all this I advocate against more public ground and public things and stuff, because why don't we all just share with each other? Now I know that not everyone does, so that kind of justifies the need for it. But someone in your yard, if you're feuding with a neighbor because he's mowing on the wrong side of something like that, the next generation is seeing that. They're learning that.
Absolutely.
Reflect on that a little bit and try to figure some of that out.
Yeah, love your neighbor.
Oh, yeah. Because I'd say, like, the number one thing I feel like we need to get into this next generation is teaching them generosity. I feel like we see every generation more and more say, why don't we all just pool our money together for blah, 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 and have the government take care of it for us, and they'll do a good job. No. And boy.
We've learned that, haven't we? Yeah.
So, So we're gonna have a question from. I think this is a Hillcrest question. Okay, we're gonna end with this. So
somebody wondered if we were done with Hillcrest yet.
Oh, yeah. No, we have a few left. We are running short on some questions, and some of them are bigger topics. So I like to use those for a single episode. Okay. Like the last question, that was one of those. That was a deeper question, and then we're gonna end with some of these questions, and I've got 3 or 4 more that are from Hillcrest here.
Okay,
so
cool.
And if you haven't heard yours, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll do it the next time. So, the question is, what is the most important thing you've learned from a stranger?
From a stranger. Most important thing I've learned from a stranger.
This is definitely one of those questions where I feel like maybe I should have told you this, last week, so you had something good.
Well, one of the things I find that strangers probably reflect what they first see of me.
Sure.
And so insights from a stranger, I think, are more valuable because they feed back to me the first impression that I leave. They're going to let me know. And so when to me, that's most often what I receive from a stranger is some idea as to how I'm coming off.
That's good.
Right off the cuff. And so I watch their eyes, and then I know whether I'm coming off, cold or aloof or engaging and personable. That strangers are valuable to me just for that reason.
That's interesting.
To encounter. I can't encounter a lady on the airplane going, and I, said hi, and I tried to be nice, but she didn't respond to me at all. And she sat there the whole time on the airplane without engaging any conversation. Okay. So I didn't get much out of her, but obviously I did not engage warmly enough.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a weird airplane etiquette where people don't want to be bothered by someone they talk to. But that's never made sense to me.
No.
I mean, unless you're tired or something like that, I guess. But
well, and then when I started coughing a few times, and she went, so it moved over a little bit. Then that's when I got sick on the airplane coming home, going to Florida, and I started to have this cough that I couldn't get rid of, and I had to chew on my gum a little extra. And that was not fun.
That's not fun.
But that could have been a reason she was. This guy has the cooties, or.
Right.
Don't want to get close.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people in today's I think kids are having a hard time today just even talking to strangers. New person, stranger danger. And it's difficult to break that,
Well, and not altogether want to be broken. The other side of it is, do we teach engagement? Do we teach conversation? Because we have video games and we have all this electronic culture that doesn't need us to understand conversation between us. How do you break? I think young guys, I can't imagine how young guys are starting to date, because how would they learn to talk to girls?
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't do it on the line. You can, but it's not the same. And so, we could end up a whole lot of single guys just because we haven't learned to talk to girls.
Oh, yeah. Because it takes a while.
It takes a while. I know. But back in my day, it took a lot. So,
do you remember all the dumb things you said when you started to talk to a girl?
No.
No?
No, I don't remember. But obviously, they were not fruitful at all.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a fool.
My wife
and I don't know that I've fully grown out of being such a fool.
Oh, sure. Sure. I was thinking more along the lines of, you see someone, they're attractive, and your heart starts to race, and so then the things you say are just stumbling, mumbling words, or things that should have been met by a heavy filter in your head to not share, and here you are sharing, and I didn't.
Yeah, well, and the downside of that is we don't really get that frontal lobe that does the filtering in place properly till we're about 26 or 7.
Man.
And so, boy, we can do a lot of dumb talking.
Oh, yeah.
Before that.
Oh, yeah. And then hopefully you've got a good wife that tells you, oh, hey, that should have been filtered. You go, oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Their filters don't get there to either until they're 27.
Yeah. Yep.
Although they do know what engages them and what does not.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. One of me and my wife's favorite stories is when we first started, the first time we met. And we met online. We met on a dating app.
Oh,
okay?
A dating app.
And I know a lot of people are against it, but, if you've got good, what did I say? Just, if you're not there for the wrong reasons, it's a good place to go. And you can see by the profile they have, they'll write things about them, kind of what they're about, right? And I remember the first time I met my wife, went to a Mexican restaurant, very pretty. I said some dumb things, like, oh, I like the sticker on the back of your window of your car. Like, Idiot, why'd you say that? That's the first thing to say. Like, first thing I said to her, and I remember she was like, oh yeah, I was thinking about getting another one, only bigger. I was like, oh, you say dumb things too.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we spent the rest of the time
Hit it
sharing
off
stories. I don't remember all the dumb things I said. She does. But I remember her telling me about a time when her and her sister got lice when they were younger, and I'm just,
Do I need that on my first date?
and her just being like, you're never gonna talk to me again.
Yeah.
Little did she know, on the way home, I called mom and said, I found the woman I'm gonna marry. She goes, oh, I bet. But sometimes you know.
Sometimes you know. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So that was funny.
That's cool.
Okay. Well, that wraps us up for this week, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. And we will see y'all next week.
Lord willing.
Bye. Thanks again for joining us for this week's episode. We are both having a ton of fun making these videos and episodes. And if you're having fun too, please tell a friend about this and help us to grow this mission. Thank you, and God bless.